start to peel that onion for me. Give me just a quick overview of what happened and why.
Sure. So I want to welcome all those that have joined us, and I want to particularly acknowledge those of you who are teachers or were employees of some of these companies who've had sort of turmoil in your life the last 30 days, either losing jobs or worried about your livelihoods. And I want to acknowledge how hard a period this has been. So about 30 days ago, the government issued some new regulations, and a few days later issued a more detailed opinion that's often been referred to as the dual reduction policy. Interesting, on the poll, these two reasons don't get so much attention, but one was to reduce time on schoolwork for children, trying to have their lives be less stressed. 12% of you thought that was the main. And the second was, 5%, and 12% about making life easier for parents, particularly financially. You know, the government's been interested in trying to have families have more than one child, and many families spend a large part of their income on extra education services, either after school, in learning centers, or in the online English learning industry. The way that I think about these changes, I use a sort of mnemonic device, and I think the first issues are about access and equity. Who can get what, where, and at what cost, and from whom? And the new policies really represent some significant changes in this, in saying that the private providers can no longer be private providers for core subjects in young children, and that this needs to shift to being a government responsibility in after-school programs. And that really is about the equity piece. So we have access and equity. We have more students who potentially are going to be able to have access, and we have a more equitable system if the Chinese government's successful in making this available to those who couldn't previously afford it. The third issue, which gets the most attention from the poll, is what I call my I issue, which is ideology. You know, who tracks what is delivered and approved? And now that's really being put into the government's realm. In the past, it was the private sector deciding what to provide, where to provide it, and how to provide it without a lot of regulations. And now there's a whole new set of regulations that affect my ownership. So these firms should no longer be privately operated as for-profit companies if they're in core subject areas. The new policies suggest they should be nonprofits in those areas, and there shouldn't be foreign investment, nor should there be funds raised through IPOs. Which leads me to my U, which is, you know, the policies are getting ultra precise with urgency. So even though this was introduced just 30 days ago, we see municipalities like Shanghai and Beijing first issuing new rules about English exams for young children, and in the last few days, new policies from the ministry about curtailing those exams across China. In the last 48 hours, we've seen some new goals of trying to limit children's access to gaming, in saying that there should be less time in a week that children spend on gaming, and actually suggesting the hours when this should be permissible or not. Whether all of these rules and regulations can be enforced is a question we can pursue later, but I just think the sort of framework of access, equity, ideology, ownership, and being ultra precise with urgency gives a sense of what's been happening in the last 30 days.